All right. Hey. Okay. Hey. So, how you doing? Yeah, I look like that. I'm looking at the screen. I'm using the phone. So, anyhow, what I've got over here is I've got my Raspberry Pi cluster. This is it right here. So, basically, there are the pies right there. It's a cluster case. So, basically, I could daisy chain all these together to serve as a single computer. Uh, That's not how I have it configured right now. These are just single units, and each one had a purpose at one point, and so I'm going to be doing something with this. And here's the cooling solution, and they're fans, of course. And they're about an inch and a quarter, inch and a half wide each, stuff like that. So what I do in order to have cooling going on with the fans at all times, I plug I plug two of them in. That two are connected to those fans, and so I make sure that those two are plugged in, and it lets air over it. So I want to do something with this today. So we're gonna muck around with it. So welcome to Muck Quest. Hey, welcome on back to the AnKorage, and I'm just doing some fun things. I'm going to do this whole video using the phone, and I have in my editor, I'm using Shotcut that I've actually got a preset for boosting up the volume. So all I have to do is just open the video, apply the filter, and I'm good. And then I can just re-render the image or the video file. Anyhow. So today I'm working on my Raspberry Pis, these units right here. So, brief history, going back to like 2017. So at this point, 7 years ago, I was part of a project to create Minecraft servers using the Raspberry Pi. And I have that unit right here. This is it. This is a Raspberry Pi 2. And this has been kept in the case I had for it for whatever. It's for display. That's it. The card, the micro SD card, has an instance of that server software, and so I just keep it. Nothing, no particular reason. So I keep that. I keep it on the shelf. So, for a while I had production servers on these Raspberries, but because the project went stale and end of life and everything, I'm like, what am I going to do with these? So I ended up creating, there's 4 units in there, so I created 2 file servers, and I had those running for a while. I've got 2 hard drives. This one is a mechanical drive, and it's not for my use. It's for someone else in the house, or the household. I'm in a condo, but anyways. So I've got one in here, and I've got another one right there. That's an SSD. So that one's solid state, and that one's for my use. And each of them have 500 gigs. So I use the SSD because it's faster. The other one, it's a mechanical drive. I've never used. It's just kind of holding information for the other household member, and it doesn't need to be solid state. It can just be the old laptop hard drive style that it was. So it's like, well, what could I do with the other 2? Well, I could cluster them by 2s, so 2 per cluster and stuff like that to get the additional processing power. However, it's not important right now. I don't really need that. So I might still do it because the one that I use for myself is it's right next to a different unit that's actually one model higher. So that would be my option. I've got three 3Bs, Raspberry Pi 3Bs, and then I've got one 3B plus. I was using that 3B plus as an entertainment server for my TV, but I learned that I didn't actually have to do it that way, so I took that Raspberry Pi, discombobulated it, and stuck it in here, and I've got that actual original Raspberry Pi in the geek bag. It's basically a laptop backpack made by Swiss Gear that I keep in the closet right on the other side of this wall, and that's where I put all my stuff, all my parts, cords, cables, things of that sort, miscellaneous things. So what I decided to do is I took this offline a few months ago because I'm like, I'm not using it. I really don't need to. So I just unplugged everything. So everything's already configured and stuff related to that. And then I just put the cords away into the geek bag and stuff like that. And I brought it back out because I've come up with another purpose to actually use it for. So I'm like, okay, why don't I just restore the use of these two things and call it a day, and I can move forward. One thing is with for mine, I'd like to use it with my Nextcloud account on Disroot. Disroot doesn't have it set up to connect your Nextcloud instance to an external drive locally. However, I can still, because what I could do if that was the case and that was set up like that, I could actually save my files into the Nextcloud card, because I use the application deck for my video management, and I could actually, if I was connected to those Pis, I could actually upload, as it were, the videos to the card, and it would actually be saving on here. That's what I want. That's what I'd like to be able to do. However, I can't. So I have a workaround where I can just save it directly to that right off the computer, and that's fine for me. So I can work with that. If they put that functionality in, that's a bonus. Malpith, please, can I have that? Anyhow, but of course you can't do it for just one person. You got to do it for everybody, of course. So I understand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this thing set up, and this is my power solution. It's not a power bank. It's basically, people are like, oh, well, charge multiple devices, multiple phones, tablets, things of that sort. But the other thing is that these are great to use as power distribution hubs, or PDUs, power distribution units, for Raspberry Pis. So I can plug them into here, have one cord, and then this gets plugged into a power socket. And I had a use for this years ago, but since that time, I have no use for it, so I've been using them on the Raspberries. So that's how we're doing that. So what I'm going to do is, of course, on this wall, I'm putting on the shelf, the cords for the power solution, which is a USB, micro USB. They're not overly long, so they kind of hang. So what I've got here is I've got my stash of cable wraps. They're green, to match the household, to match the channel, all that happy joy. I like it. It's kind of like become my color of sorts. My color is like a rusty orange, but for the sake of the channel and stuff like that, I go with the green. So I've got these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug those cables, the USB Type A plugs, into here, and then I'm going to use a couple of these to wrap around those plugs and around this to hold them in. That way they don't, the weight of this doesn't just yank it out and I lose power. on those raspberries. So that's what I'm going to do there. So I've got that. And then I just need to run the cables. So basically, the cables that go out to the drives are, they're short, so they'll just be right there. And then my network cables, I'll be running them to the router, which is that guy right there. And, they'll just kind of loop down and stuff like that. Or I might bring them over and loop them behind. And then, I already have a little bit of a cable mess there, so I need to cover that up. And the best way to do that is to take some either cardboard or presentation board, cut it to size, paint it the same color as the wall, and just shove it up in there using the brackets for the shelves to hold them. And if I want, I could use, like a binder clip or something just to grab on, whatever. So why don't we get started with this? However, I am going to sit down for a second, but, when I come back, it's going to be boom, and I'll be working on that. So I'm also going to be playing with my time-lapse type ability, which is really just an edit using Kden Live to speed it up so that you can kind of see me going, woo, and there you go. So let's get started. All right, so I'm working on my power solution, the power brick of sorts. And what I've got is, how do you make cable wraps longer? Well, what you do is you take another one, you feed it through the little buckle thing, and you get a longer piece. So now this is this long. If I need, I'll add a third one, but I might need it. And it's always good to have more than what you actually need, because in the end, you could trim it back, make it smaller, take less, take some out, whatever. So it's always better to have more, because you can always add. And that's an Emerald Lagasse statement right there. And I believe it. You can always add. And you can do that with materials as well. You can always add materials. But if you have too much less, yeah, okay. So, anyways, back to the project. All right, so what I've done is I've actually taken 3 cable wraps, and I've got them around it, and so that I've created an anchor point. And it's really kind of funny because look at the name, Anchor. So there we go. So I've got an anchor point. So what I'm going to do, excuse me. So I've got, here's a cord. So what I do is I plug it in like so. Got these off Amazon, cheap as all get out. And then got a cable wrap here. I bring it down, right down to the base of the plug itself. Bring it down, and then what I can do at that point is I can take it and I can, firm, not stretch it, but firmly hold it down and attach it to there. So that will prevent these from randomly being yanked out. Yeah, dust bunnies or whatever might catch on to the sticky side of the Velcro, but better there than inside of the computer. So my main computers. There you go. So I'm gonna get the other one set up, and then we'll pick up after that. Okay, so here's what I've got. So basically, I plugged in my 2 cables. So these are the power cables for the units. So I plugged those into here, and what I did is I've got my base wrap, as you can see it here better, like that. That's my anchor wrap, and then I've wrapped the 2 wires, the 2 cables together, and then I just used another wrap to actually connect it to the anchor. And, so that's going to provide the stabilization and strength that I need in order to prevent this from yanking out. Because see that? It's not coming out. Yay for Velcro! Okay, let's get back to it. All right, so what I've got is I've got that plugged in here, and so now I can start the reassembly of the rest of the things. You know, get the raspberries, get the cords. I can plug the rest of the cords in, and then got something else to show you. Where are you? Got these. These are extensions. They're USB extensions, micro USB to micro USB, but they're on a right angle. And that is mainly because, you know, you've got the square thing. Got this, and I'm all about aesthetics and how things look. So when using these, if I plug it in, yeah, that one. Plugs in the top and it feeds right to the back. So I'll have all four of these because I've got them all bound together. Got all four, so I'll have one in each thing there. But only two are actually going to go out to the actual cords. And then I plug those cords on this end, and it looks a little prettier. So, you know, I would rather have this rather than having something sticking all the way out and going bound over, stuff like that. You know, let's make it look a little neater. Okay, there it is. They're all plugged in. Wasn't as hard as I thought it might have been. So now we gotta check them on the monitor there, see if I can connect. So let's check that. All right. Okay, so they're right up here and they are running. Fans are fanning. And now we need to check to see if I can connect to it. I already have SSH connections already done in Linux Mint. I just haven't used them, so why don't we use one right now? Why don't we connect to Aurora and check on that one? And there it is. All right. So that's awesome. I'll put you off to the side. Let's check Uppsala. And there it is. It's all up and running. Yeah, and I can tell which one is which because I've got customized bash RC files. And there's another file that actually gives, that I've actually updated where I can print out the name, stuff like that. That's a callback to my days at my old work, because they customize theirs, and when you connect to Linux, you're connecting using the command line, and everything was command line, and I didn't like that so much. I like a GUI, so. I actually have a GUI that I can use. There. Yeah, I just connected to Uppsala. I tried Aurora first because I don't quite remember the IP addresses off the top of my head. I'd have to go back and look. I can look at my connection instructions for the SSH to get those IPs. It's no big deal. So yeah, so here's Uppsala, and it looks a lot like my regular desktop, doesn't it? Well, that's on purpose because this one is Uppsala, so therefore it actually says Uppsala up there. So there's that. All right, so now let's test a connection. I have the drives actually connected to, on my Windows box, I've got a connection to them using that, which is part of the reason why I want to use them, because from that box, I want to take my videos and I want to save them on Aurora, that Raspberry Pi. And so yeah, I'm going to close that, fire this up, my file manager. I'm going to come down to it, and where are we? Okay, Aurora. Okay, registered user, Pi. And there we go. We're in. Awesome. And I've got a file up here called About Aurora. I click on that, double click it, bring it back up, and I get my About file. It's a text file. Nothing major. I don't have an extension on it because it's only really meant to be looked at in the Linux environment, so it's just About, and that's it. Can I see it in Windows? Yeah, sure. It's a text file. You know, you just open it up on Notepad. There you go. Easy peasy. So there you go. Okay. Well, that's done. So why don't we close this up? All right. Well, that was it. Yeah, I had to close the blinds because even though it's overcast, it is so bright out there. I had to close it so I could do this portion. So that was kind of fun to do. And yeah, I'm like a big techie networking guy. No, not really. I tinker with this stuff. And you know, so I coded. Basically, I use tutorials. So when I say coding, in this particular instance, I copy and pasted all the configuration files. I created them all. I copy and pasted all the commands, all that stuff like that. Made little adjustments where it was necessary, and then I had a file server, and they've been running for a while, and of course I shut them down last year, and now I've got a reason to have them running again. So the other household member, you know, can use that again, and all the files are still on those drives. So I don't have anything on Aurora right now. That's my drive, or you know, my Raspberry that I use. The other one is called Uppsala, so that's a harking back to Old Norse, and you know, and so yeah, so now we can continue to use them for storing files. It's a simple file server, not super mega fast or anything like that. I mean, heck, it's a Raspberry. You know, I could increase the computational factor by putting two units together. You know, clustering them 2 units together. I may very well do that because I can't think of anything else to really put on any of those other two. You know, I don't really need a DNS server. And I don't want to do any other projects that include buying additional hardware to attach to it. So whatever I want to do, it has to be within the actual unit itself. And clustering is one of them. I have additional Ethernet cables, so that would be easy. You know, I just connect those to the network, stuff like that, and cluster them together. And I can have 2 Raspberries to act as one. So I could put 2 of 3 Bs together. That would be 1. So that would be Uppsala. And then for mine, I could connect that one to the 3B plus that I have in there. When? I have no timetable. It's like, if I get the motivation at some point, you know, that kind of thing. So there we go. So I've got these drives up and running, and that's going to be it. And that's going to be this video. So thank you very much. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And we will catch you in the next video. So thank you very much. Skál. Drink to victory.